A sea of blue showing up to honor fallen Chicago police officer Ariana Preston during her funeral. The young officer was killed in a robbery earlier this month, but members of the squad don't think she and other fallen officers should be honored. Rashida Tlaib and Cori Bush were the only two House lawmakers to vote against honoring police officers who were killed in the line of duty. And of course, they blamed the GOP as the reason why, saying, quote, "It is a document intended to advance Republicans' false narrative around supporting law enforcement and gaslight the public about where they stand." And while the squad keeps disrespecting cops, they are needed more now than ever before. A woman who was brutally attacked on a subway says that she wishes that someone like Marie and Daniel Penny would have been around to defend her.
If I had somebody like Penny around, maybe things would have been different. I probably wouldn't have suffered so much pain and suffering and these things that I go through. I have so much less confidence about myself every single day. You know, that I wake up and I look at the mirror and I replay this image of what happened to me. You know, and I would never want nobody to have to go through that, to feel that every day of their life.
Really? Never.
You know, Dana, there were 556 law enforcement officers killed in 2022. The majority of Democrats and Republicans voted for this, and yet you have these two saying that they aren't interested.
Well, I think it's good when the squad does this, then you at least know where they stand. Okay, so fine. And so don't come blaming us and all of a sudden the White House saying it's the Republicans who want to defund the police. That was a ridiculous point, and they had to walk that back anyway. But I do wonder what the squad's ideal long-term future is. Like, what would they have preferred have happened in the subway car that day? What would they have accepted? What was allowable in their minds? At what point would they want someone to step in? Maybe never. I don't know. I would love to hear them explain to me what that was. Now, you can feel terrible for somebody like Jordan Neely, who had a terrible upbringing, lost his mother, was homeless, was trying to make it as an impersonator, on a lot of drugs, arrested 42 times. You can feel bad for him. And you could say that even that the system failed him. But at some point, does the system have to protect others? Isn't that what the system of government is for? And I wish that they would have to explain that.
You know, Greg, people like Cori Bush, who voted against this resolution, don't want that to happen to them, which is why they call for defunding the police and use money to pay for private security. So it's fine when it happens to other people on the subway, but not to them.
Yeah, I would be okay with it if they hired security from the groups who hate cops. Right? Don't use retired police officers or present-day police officers. I'd like to see how it works out if criminals protect them and see how far that gets them. That female that was on, I can't remember her name, so I don't want to butcher it, on Laura's show. She's a victim because she doesn't have the same security that the squad has. That's why the squad can't. The squad throws women under the bus every day. Every day that they ignore women as victims, they're the worst misogynists on the planet. It's a consequence, I think, of applying the political filter to things that never used to be political. And this is what happened when the left in the 70s decided that everything personal is now political. And so things that we used to battle together, like crime, went from one side to two. Never was like that. I mean, liberals, conservatives, Democrats, Republicans, we all felt that, like, we wanted safe streets and we didn't want our kids beaten up and we didn't want people. But that has changed now because there's one side that looks at through the ideology of oppression versus oppressed. So the leftists now can't do the human thing and support people who are trying to help others because we feel the same way. You know, it's the prison of two ideas thing again. They can't be with the other side because that's politically evil. So they side with criminals.
You know, Jesse, we heard a lot during BLM, a lot about defunding the police, but also that people in these communities wanted police officers who looked like them, who were part of their community. And here we have Officer Preston, who was killed by teenagers in her hometown, and the squad is behaving like this.
Yeah, they're going to pay for this politically. You know, when you have those really wild votes in Congress, like a Barbara Lee, who'll be the only member to not vote for the Afghanistan invasion, or someone like, remember Ron Paul used to be the one sole vote against, like, the most popular thing ever? Those are usually principled votes that you get a lot of heat for. But I understand those types of votes. And those are brave votes. This is not a brave vote. This was one of those political things that McCarthy did to dare the squad to vote against it. Hey, everybody, let's just give a nice salute to the police. And they walked right into the trap. It's not like this was going to fund or defund the police. There was no policy here. This is going to be used against the Democrats so viciously. In the midterms, they're going to say the squad Democrats voted against saying attaboy to cops. And they just handed a huge political weapon to the right, and they just made Nancy and Hakeem go, oh, my God, are you kidding me over here? All you had to do was fall in line and say, I like cops, too. Is it that hard? Right. But they tried to make a stand like it was on principle, but it was on politics, and they blew it.
Yeah, and it's hypocritical as well. Jessica?
Well, we've been saying the squad, but it was half the squad. I mean, this isn't even a unified front.
A squaw.
They staunched the squad.
Stanched.
Stanched the squad.
Traunched.
Stop the bleeding, and I'll finish. And I thought that was telling, that AOC didn't vote with them, Ayanna Pressley didn't vote with them, Jamal Bowman didn't vote for them. These are people who are usually pretty unified about an issue. And I think that if you are going to take a, quote, principled stand, which I'm sure that they think that they did, we're owed a much more thorough explanation as to why you wouldn't stand up and salute this young woman who seems like an incredible person.
Well, they blame Republicans.
Well, but that's not a full explanation, because there are often, I'll credit Dana for this, sometimes we'll be talking about a bill and I'll say, I can't understand how Republicans voted against it. And you are detail-oriented and you say, well, this is why. Whether I agree with it or not, there's usually a decent reason that can be laid out, whether you agree with it or not. It doesn't seem to be the case here. And there were tons of elections that went on yesterday. And if you look at what happened in Philadelphia, there was a Democratic primary.
Yeah.
And the candidate, the tough on crime candidate, who talked a lot like Mayor Adams had been talking, who even said we may need to bring back stop and frisk, was the one who routed the more liberal candidate. And I think that you are going to continue to see this all across the country. We now have a Democratic mayor of Jacksonville also talking about how important it is to make sure that people aren't robbed, aren't murdered, aren't raped, et cetera. And that is going to be on the forefront of what goes on in 2024 and moving forward.
Yeah, well, cops are having a really hard time recruiting. This officer, Officer Preston, was only 24 years old. So we'll see how it goes.
She had just finished her master's degree, and she wasn't able to attain the opportunity to go and get her diploma, and her mom did it for her the weekend.
Terrible.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.